It's Wednesday, October 5th. On today's show, SpaceX and NASA launched 4 astronauts to the International Space Station, making some historic firsts. A new Chess.com report provides a fresh perspective on the controversial Neiman versus Carlson cheating controversy. And a petition to expand USC's racial categories on forums is gaining traction.
All that and more from where we are.
4 astronauts rocketed off to the International Space Station this morning. Among them, the first Native American woman to go into orbit. Michael Mellinger and Ashley Wynn have the story.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And liftoff.
SpaceX Crew 5 launched this morning from Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
This spaceflight marks the first time a Native American woman will be in orbit. Nicole Mann will serve as this mission's commander.
Among the many interesting parts of this mission is that it was the first launch for a Native American woman into space, Nicole Mann. She's the commander of the spacecraft. She's joined by Josh Kasada, the pilot, a Japanese astronaut, Koichi Wakata, who's making his 5th space flight, and Anna Kakina, who is the first Russian to fly aboard a SpaceX-NASA partnership mission.
That was Kelly Humphreys, news chief at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Kelly also mentioned the Russian cosmonaut Anna Kakina joining this flight. Ashley, why is that significant?
This launch is a tremendous show of collaboration between the U.S. and Russia, given recent tensions between the two countries. Kelly cited the long-standing tradition of international partnerships at the ISS as cause for this monumental collaboration.
Well, you know, NASA and Russia have been partners for more than 20 years building this space station. And we've had both Americans and Russians and our other partner astronauts from Europe and Japan and Canada on board continuously for 24 years now. And without the strength of the international partnerships that we've built for the space station, we would not be able to do that.
Michael, what exactly is the Crew 5 mission hoping to work on?
There are a lot of benefits to doing research in zero-gravity spaces, which can benefit those of us down here on Earth. Kelly spoke more about this with us.
Well, they're going to be doing a lot of microgravity research. Among the different things they're going to be working with are plant growth in space, making sure that we can begin to plow the field of growing our own sustenance on long-duration missions. They're going to be working on some new tissue printing systems that are trying to work on being able to literally almost grow organs in the microgravity environment, and a variety of other experiments that deal with how the human body reacts to long-duration stays in spaceflight.
Michael, Ashley, you two reported on this story today. You're here in the studio live. Tell me, why is it important to tell these stories?
Well, what's important is that this is the first Native American woman in space, and she's the commander of this mission. And what is important about telling these stories is that she's going to set an example for women of color, girls of color who wish to go into space in the future, and set an example for the rest of society.
What does this mean exactly for young women of color who aspire to be, the next astronaut, the next rocket science? What example specifically would they be able to follow, I guess?
Well, this tremendous show of representation is key. When little girls see women who look like them going into fields that they want to go into, I think that's one of the most important things you can see in media and also in rocket science. Something else we're seeing is that this is NASA, this is SpaceX, and seeing that these big, important, relevant companies are pushing to include women of color, that's huge.
And this development is coming at a tumultuous time in U.S.-Russia relations. Is this event an indicator that we can move past the politics and focus only on the science?
Yeah, Brian, I think that's a really important question to talk about. And, we know right now that Russia's engaged in a war in Ukraine, and we know that things with Russia and the U.S. and Russia and the rest of the world are not super great. But I think this mission is a representation that we recognize how important space exploration is, and how much, sending these 4 astronauts up to space can really help benefit things down here on Earth, the rest of us. And I think, being able to have this joint space flight, not only between a public and private partnership like SpaceX and NASA, but also between multiple nations, is really awesome.
Thank you so much for being here, y'all.
Awesome. Anything else you want to talk about, Ashley?
Well, there is actually
Oh,
something
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I cut you
No,
off.
no, no,
I'm
no.
so sorry. Go ahead.
There's something happening tomorrow. When this mission lands on the ISS, there's going to be what Kelly called a rendezvous, where the astronauts currently on ISS will welcome all the new astronauts and cosmonauts on the new mission. And it's kind of, what did you call it earlier? Like a passing of the torch.
Yeah, it's like we'll see a little ceremony tomorrow. So we know right now,
Right.
like the astronauts are like right on their way, and we know. I think about tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening, they'll arrive up at the ISS, and we'll see, you know, the Crew 4 exchange with the Crew 5, and things will kind of get on the way with this new expedition.
It's a celebration of international collaboration and also space innovation and technology. So we're both really excited for that, and it's something we should look out for.
And I think any of our listeners that are really into space exploration or that really just, you know, think this topic is moving, I would encourage them to like keep up to date with it as it goes on for the next next day or so.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Awesome, guys.
All right, that was Michael Mellinger and Ashley Wynn. Thank you so much for coming to the studio, y'all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Last month, chess grandmaster Magnus Carlsen withdrew from the 2022 Sinquefield Cup after being defeated by fellow grandmaster Hans Niemann. His accusation? Cheating. Now, an official report from chess.com brings new allegations against Niemann to the table. But is there more to this story than meets the eye? Ethan Huang reports.
Chess.com released a 72-page report Tuesday detailing cheating allegations against 19-year-old chess grandmaster Hans Niemann. This comes after world chess champion Magnus Carlsen lost to Niemann, walked out of the Sinquefield Cup, and then strongly implied Niemann cheated on Twitter. Niemann has admitted to cheating before in online games. The report mentions this while concluding that Niemann likely cheated in more than 100 games, some as recent as this past August. But what they couldn't find was evidence of any cheating in his game with Carlsen, nor in any in-person games. Jack Peters is a professor at USC and an international master at chess. He believes that we shouldn't jump to conclusions based on a past track record.
The two positions aren't mutually exclusive. Maybe he did cheat in internet games. Who cares? But he can't be accused by Magnus of cheating against him just because he cheated in the past.
Vijay Demerla, a member of USC's chess club, echoes some of these thoughts, saying that despite these accusations, Niemann is still human.
I think that chess grandmasters need to be held to a high level, and cheating multiple times is not okay. However, chess grandmasters become grandmasters as early as the age of 12. And 12-year-olds make mistakes, 16-year-olds make mistakes, 19-year-olds make mistakes. And so I think it's important to zoom out of the chess world and understand that these are still human beings, and human beings have flaws.
Peters says that Magnus acted purely out of emotion, and that there is likely no foul play in Niemann's checkmate.
I can tell you that I analyzed the two games that Hans beat Magnus. He played well. He didn't play extraordinarily well or like a computer would play. And Magnus played below his usual. He's a good enough player that if there was absolutely no cheating involved and he played Magnus 10 times, he'd win a game or two.
But how will this affect the chess world? With two prominent players butting heads beyond the board, Demerla says that the community will be divided.
I think that this is going to be one of those things that just splits the community down the middle, because everyone loves to take a side, have a strong stance on something.
After their game in St. Louis, it seems that Niemann and Carlsen are engaged in a new battle, one using pawns of social media and bishops of scandal. It will likely be up to the community as to who takes the king. For Annenberg Media, I'm Ethan Huang.
Today, October 5th, is World Teachers' Day, a day to celebrate those who've prepared and inspired the next generation of leaders and continue to selflessly give their time and efforts. Mariela Gomez spoke to a few students on the integral role educators have played in their lives. Here's the story.
Happy National Teachers' Day. Today, October 5th, we are celebrating all the teachers that dedicate their lives to making an impact on students in and beyond the classroom. We are defining a teacher as anyone who does the act of teaching. It can be a tutor, professor, a TA in an undergraduate class, a coach, or anyone who has taught you a little something that you will carry for the rest of your life. Chris Somu, who is a second-year student studying health and human sciences, says she has always had an appreciation for teachers who do more than expected, like one of her high school teachers.
I think I appreciate teachers that go above and beyond the classroom to really be there for their students. So, I am also a first-generation college student, and I had a teacher my senior year of high school. She taught English, and I really appreciated how, I don't think my high school is it wasn't a top school. A lot of I would say the education wasn't really good.
Despite the adversity that Chris faced in high school, she found solace in her teacher who pushed her to achieve more beyond her means.
But during college application season, she saw how I went out of my way to apply to top schools and really work hard to get into the school that I wanted to. She took her time outside of the class to help write letters of recommendation and read over my essays and stuff like that. So I really appreciate her for that.
Spike Fu, a senior studying computer science games, says the inspiration her teacher has instilled in her has stuck with her all the way from China to Los Angeles.
I am very inspired by teachers I had in China. Those English teachers, especially, they encouraged me to be here. They pushed me to be in United States, because when I was a kid, it really wasn't a big thing for students to go abroad. For me as a girl, I wanted to study computer science.
Without a doubt, a teacher's influence blooms in everyday life. For Annenberg Media, I'm Mariela Gomez.
A student has started a campaign to include a Middle Eastern and North African, MENA, racial category in USC's Common App and USC Forms. Here is Daphne Yaman with the breakdown.
Most everyone has filled out at least one form in their lives that asks for their race or ethnicity, and in most cases, it doesn't cause any problems. However, a recent petition started by a USC student paints the picture of individuals who may feel like when they check that box, they're not really checking how they identify. Patricia Gergis, a senior studying industrial and systems engineering, explains why she started the petition.
USC doesn't have any official data on how many Middle Eastern students are on campus. That is a tragedy. That is a real tragedy, because now how is the university going to use the money to allocate resources?
Lori Brand, a recent retiree as a USC professor emerita of political science and international relations and Middle East studies, explains why the two identities may have historically been homogenized.
I think, in part, some of it has to do with perceptions that people have of physical appearance. And this is particularly problematic, obviously, if we're talking about episodes of discrimination or harassment or worse.
Both individuals explained the necessity of a more distinguished subculture and networking system for Middle Eastern and North African students within the university.
I think it's very important that the university provides special services and understanding and a rubric for Muslim students, but that Muslim is not coincident with Middle East North African.
Gergis explained why the petition was so important to her and how her position as a student at USC has aided in her cause.
So my goal with this petition is for us to have recognition and USC to officially recognize us on paper, and then start to allocate resources, start to see what we need.
Gergis's petition is available on change.org and has garnered more than half of the asked 500 signatures. You can find it under the title, Expand USC's Racial Categories on the Common App and University Forms. For Annenberg Media, I'm Daphne Yaman.
Fall break is right around the corner, and for those USC students who are planning to travel, you may be in luck. USG announced yesterday their new free shuttle service from campus to LAX starting next Wednesday. REP has more.
Los Angeles is notorious for traffic, especially en route to the airport. Taxis and other mobility services overcharge during the rush hour. Well, the good news for USC students is that they can now book a free ride to the Los Angeles International Airport for fall recess. A pilot program funded by the undergraduate student government, SCOOP, aims to provide safely and environmentally friendly transportation services to every student to the airport. In response to the Green Week initiative on campus, senior civil engineering student and the founder of SCOOP, Carlo DiBernardo, describes how he started this program.
So when we talk about sustainability, it's in the simplest way, moving people with less vehicles possible.
Every single academic year, over 70,000 pounds of carbon dioxide are emitted when students travel from USC to LAX round trip. That is equivalent to cutting down every tree on campus. With the 17th service day for starting the program, DiBernardo projects a long-term solution for student transportation during every academic break.
By the end of the pilot, which is this academic year, we will have a framework to run this service every single year going forward in the best and most sustainable way possible.
The president of the undergraduate student government, Hannah Woodworth, believes higher ridership with the scoop services can benefit the greater student body.
Students have been signing up rapidly. We have the capacity for about 1,500 students for this first fall break program, but we plan to expand that for winter break as more students will be traveling. Our goal is to eliminate that barrier to entry for students to travel during breaks. All students should have an equal opportunity to be able to go home, explore, and the cost of a fare to the airport should not be the limiting factor.
To reserve a spot in the shuttle, students can sign up through Scoop's Instagram account at scup.usc. The service will be operating every hour next Wednesday and Thursday. For Annenberg Media, I'm REP.
And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. This show was produced by Guillermo Guerrero and Jeffrey Lee.
Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio and subscribe to From Where We Are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm Jack Waterman.
And I'm Brian Sarabia. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.
See ya.